Hey guys, this is Caro, and in today's video I'm going to be talking a little bit about how you can buy your first wakeboard. We're going to go through length, rocker type, cable versus boat, the level of your riding, and some other stuff like that. So let's get started. One of the first things that you're probably wondering is what length wakeboard should you get? I'm sure if you've done some research, you've figured out that there are a lot of people with a lot of opinions about this. The reason for that is that it's really a preference thing. Some riders like longer boards, some like shorter. It depends on your riding style. But if you're new to the sport and you're looking to buy your first board, here's a little chart for you that I'm going to insert right now that can give you a general idea of what kind of length you should be looking for. That being said, I know a lot of riders that weigh very little that ride really big boards and vice versa. So don't really stare yourself blind on your weight and length. Basically, a longer board will give you softer landings, and it will also be a little bit more stable when you're carving, but a shorter board will be lighter in the air. Especially if you're riding boat, it can help if you're starting to do flips and stuff. Usually, cable riders will ride a little bit longer boards than boat riders, and that's simply because when you're hitting rails, it's easier when you have a little bit more surface to play around with. I weigh about 135 pounds, and I ride a 142 on the cable and a 138 on the boat. Speaking of a boat and cable, what is the difference between a cable board and a boat board? And the main difference will be that a cable board is treated with a grind base that will help it not break when you're hitting features. The bottom of your board will have some protection, whereas a boat board is really just fiberglass. If you take a boat board on the cable, it probably will break pretty quickly, so don't do that. The second thing is that cable boards usually have a little bit of flex in them, and that is because, again, they're more durable, but also because it makes it a lot more fun when you're riding rails to have that little bit of flex. So you can press on your nose or your tail once you start getting going, and yeah, it's a little bit more fun. You can also be like me and ride flex boards on the boat. It gives you a little bit more forgiving landings, and it can take a little while to get used to, but once you get used to it, you probably will love it. I'll let you out of here. Off you go. Now let's talk fins. Some boards, especially boat boards, or really only boat boards, have fins already molded into the bottom of the board, and some, like mine, has the ones where you screw them in. When you're riding cable, usually you don't want any fins on your board because they're just going to interfere with your awesome features riding. If you're on rails, you don't want fins getting caught. And also, a lot of cable parks ban fins because they tear up the features. So unscrew your fins before you go on the cable. Have a cable specific board, or as in my case, have a crossover board where I can just remove my fins and go ride cable. And my dog's back. Come on. Besides the length, there are two major things you should look at when you're buying a board. The first one is called your rocker type, and it is the curve of the board. And the second one is what it looks like underneath, whether it has channels or fins or basically everything that happens on the bottom. There are two main kinds of rocker. One's called continuous and one's called a 3-stage. The continuous is pretty self-explanatory. It's a continuous curve all the way through the board. And those ones tend to be a little bit more predictable. They're pretty smooth carving and pretty stable boards. The second kind is called a 3-stage, which means that the tip and the tail is at an angle, and then you have a bit of a more flat piece in the middle. The 3-stage rocker will be a little bit more aggressive, giving you some more pop off the wake. There are all kinds of mixes between these. There are aggressive 3-stage, there are subtle 3-stage, there are 5-stage rocker these days. Most of this is really preference, so the best way to figure out what board is good for you is to go out and try a bunch of boards and see what you like. The second part of the channels and everything happening underneath will affect how your board is carving through the water. So the more channels and features a board has underneath, the more stable it will be. And also, the easier it will get to lock on edge once you're trying to jump or carve or everything. But the less forgiving it will be when you're landing, or if you're, say, for instance, trying to do surface tricks, turning your board around, you will catch the front edge way easier if you have a lot of stuff going on. So in the beginning, something in between could be pretty good, where you're still getting a little bit of help carving, but you're also getting that nice forgiveness so you don't take a lot of slams and don't really want to ride your new wakeboard anymore. Question, women specific versus male board, which one should you get? And the truth is, there really isn't much difference between the women's boards and the men's boards other than the graphic. So basically, pick whichever graphic you think is cooler when you've found a shape that you like and stick to that one. That being said, choosing a women-specific board will help the industry see that women are interested in wakeboarding, which will make the brands put more money into female wakeboarding, including contests, sponsoring riders, and developing more female products. So if you don't really care, choose the women's board. I ride my pro model, the Slingshot Contrast, and if you want to know more about that board, there's a bunch of videos. I'll link to them in the description and maybe even here. And I think that is all that I can think about when it comes to buying a wakeboard. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please thumbs up, like, subscribe, all those good stuff. And also, please, as usual, comment whatever videos you would like for me to do, and I'll try and make it happen. Peace!